Hello and welcome. This is Taco Movie Talks. We got a trilogy of movies I've been wanting to cover here for a while, and it is the return of Big Chungus. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
This is the first time that you've watched the prequels, and it's like the second time that I've seen it. And you came into it, you kind of you didn't know almost anything about it, right?
Yeah, I just watched one of the newer ones, so.
So yeah, you watched like the newest trilogy.
Yeah, the one with the girl, you know what I'm talking about?
Ray.
Ray.
And Finn and
Yeah.
Poe, Dameron and.
Yeah, I've only seen that one, so I
Yeah.
came in with like knowing nothing.
Yeah, and there's some there. I mean, you know, the spillover from. It's really from the original trilogy that makes it into this newest trilogy. So like Han Solo is in the newest one, but like the majority of the characters don't really, with exception of one, and I don't want to really get into spoiler territory, but he becomes a major character in this one, and they bring him back for the third one of the new trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But, like, you know, you came in with so little information that it was, like, exciting to watch it with you. I could not wait until we got to the third film. Because I'm like, I knew that's where a lot happened. And honestly, not to get too far ahead of myself, but the first episode 1 and episode 3 are the ones that I remembered the most. And like looking back on it after just watching them, it's still kind of that way. Episode 2 was like, it had moments, but like the parts that stick in my mind the most weren't great. But episode 1 has a really, really big moment. Episode 3 has just a lot of pretty big moments. But ultimately, one thing I want to say, I think the storyline that they went with for the prequels, it did warrant them going for it. And I don't know. At that time, I think people were kind of like, more Star Wars, that's good. And after the first two movies were like really maybe soured on it, because the prequels aren't looked at in a really high regard, especially compared to the original trilogy. But after finishing it, the third movie and where the story, like all the ground the story covers, it really justifies them telling the story they told in the prequels.
Yeah, I haven't seen like the first 3 or the last. Is there only 3 after?
So there's 9 episodes, but then they have like standalone films. So there's the Solo film, Rogue One. I've seen Rogue One. Rogue One's actually really good, and it kind of, I mean, they all tie into it, and it's just like little side stories that add to the overarching. Star Wars is like, this is the big thing that the galaxy's going through type deal.
But like I said, the one with Rey, it clicked, like watching the third film, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like with the Jedi, all that stuff, so, I don't know.
You have a huge fandom for Harry Potter. How does this kind of compare? I mean, does this feel like the type of film that you could like as much or more than Harry Potter?
Watching the third one, I really do think I like it more already. Like, I'm like on the edge of my seat. Can't wait to watch the rest of them.
Yeah, I'm into it. I don't know. It was almost like I was too young to just like even grasp like the simple stuff before, and it was like, oh, there's lightsabers, but the prequels, you have to have your patience. The third one, I think, is the only one where like it really is just always going for stuff. But then you probably might not get as much of the weight if you're like too young. And you know, I was 4, I think, when the episode 1 came out, and then do the math from there, 7, and then 10. But yeah, I don't even know if I saw episode 3. I think I just watched it like on TV, like you know, years after it happened. So like this was like the first time I watched from front to back the original trilogy. But yeah, it was better than I expected, but I can also now really clearly see a lot of the criticisms people had for the films.
Yeah, I was talking to my dad. He loves Star Wars. You know that. Like, he's obsessed. Like, growing up, like, I was like, that looks so dumb. But, like I told you, like, I completely understand why it has a cult following.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew nothing. Like, my dad said the first 2, like you said, wasn't, like, his favorite. But he did love the 3rd episode.
Okay, so he has watched the prequels.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said they're not as good as the first 3 that came out, but like I feel a lot of people do feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like you. I know some major plot points from the original trilogy, but I haven't watched them yet. So watching them with you is going to be really awesome. But like the characters in this one were kind of hit and miss.
I know what you're gonna bring up.
So like, just starting from episode 1, they kind of introduced a lot of really new characters. The only ones, if you want to get specific, that aren't kind of reintroductions are Obi-Wan, Anakin in a way, C-3PO, and R2-D2.
What about Qui-Gon?
Qui-Gon was completely new.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Qui-Gon was awesome.
Yes.
That was like just a really good casting, and just he fits that mentor type character. Padme or Princess Amidala, I think.
Yeah, I think close to that.
She was visually interesting. Script kind of interesting too, just because you get like a sense of their culture, because she has a double, and it's like you don't realize. I mean, I think we kind of did, or maybe
you did. You pointed it out to me, and like after that, I could. I was like,
yeah.
Is that the double? Because they did look similar.
It was a really, it was great casting. And then the creme de la creme, Darth Maul, who is one of the coolest looking characters, like not only in Star Wars, but I honestly just think like in anything. Because, yeah, his face looked awesome.
The paint, right? Like
yeah.
The red and black.
Oh, yeah. And to give him the double lightsaber, like I felt like I could geek out on this movie so much. It was like those little decisions were, I was like, yeah, I can see why people freaking love this. The controversial one, and having your opinion on this, I think, is awesome, is Jar Jar Binks.
Love him. Love him, love him, love him.
So, like, looking back on it, he does not annoy me. And I informed you about this after the fact, and you were surprised.
I was so mad. How can anyone hate him?
Yeah, he was, like, literally one of the most hated characters.
But do you remember what while we were watching the movie, I'm like, I love him. Like,
yeah.
He was so funny.
It was such a genuine love. And it was prior to me even telling you about it. So I knew it wasn't like one of those things where you kind of came to the defense of him. You just really actually liked him because of who he was and how he was written.
Yes, I was so upset, and I'm not gonna really spoil anything, but like he didn't have any lines in the third.
Yeah, and I mean that really, in the second one, I think he had a few lines, but
yeah, you said like they tried to like script him out.
Yeah,
like he was that hated.
And there's a fan theory, and this is like, I'm sure a lot of the people listening to this have heard it a million times, but this will be the first time probably you've heard it. But, and you noticed it in the third one maybe, specifically, because it is different. But there's something with eyes in the Star Wars universe, where that kind of yellow iris or what have you, it signifies like something with the Sith. There was a theory that Jar Jar Binks was going to be a Sith Lord in the end of it. But people hated him so much that they decided to write him out of the script, and that might have just completely, like, look, we're not going to go that direction with it. I think it would have been, I don't know. The way it ended was so good that could have tainted it, but it would have been really interesting, I will say. And maybe it would have made the second movie that could have been developing while all the other things were cooking. One thing I'm going to say, and look, I feel like my opinion matches with pretty much the overarching popular opinion, but I'm not as harsh, and I think that's the only differentiation. The pod racing was pretty not up my alley. Like, the actual racing scenes were good, but just kind of the storyline in Tatooine was like, I didn't like young Anakin, the actor.
I did.
I mean, he was like, I guess maybe like kind of adorable.
Yeah.
Because he was like a young kid, and the way he liked Padme.
It was like a little like child crush, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Like, it's such a big storyline because it's like, that's Anakin Skywalker. But it felt like it was too much of what was going on.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the interesting stuff, like, Palpatine was a really interesting character, especially in the third. Like, you got to really see him shine. And maybe, like, if he would have been more integral in the first one, it would have worked out. But that was such a big chunk, just being in Tatooine. And it wasn't super duper compelling. But you liked Anakin, so I would imagine you kind of liked that.
Yeah, like I told you, I was like messaging my friend. I was like, I love Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the first one, and she didn't say anything, and I'm not gonna say it just yet, but it's like, okay. Because like I thought it was like mutual, like everyone loved like the storyline of Anakin, but you know.
Turned out that's not the case.
Not at all.
Or, yeah, I mean, if they would have done something more with Palpatine and Darth Maul, that, I think, would have ended up... That would have been better for me, I think. Because I don't think Darth Maul got enough kind of screen time.
He was just in the first one, right?
Yep, just in the first one. And, I can't find... Oh, I found it. But, yeah, I think if they would have kind of built up Palpatine with Darth Maul, show a little bit of their, more of their interactions, that could have ate up some of the screen time that they devoted to being in Tatooine. Because it was just like, alright, it was too much in retrospect, I think.
I do agree. Like, they spent like a chunk of the movie just...
Yeah.
In that one area, just like building up to the pod race.
Yeah, that's them in Tatooine, is really all I can remember. And the ending, which we'll get to, but that's really all I can remember about this movie, and I didn't super like in Tatooine. The pod race was pretty good, and the ending was very strong to where I was like, oh, that's sick. You were crying during the ending.
It was sad.
So, yeah, I mean, there comes a time where, it's like they're trying to get off. I don't even remember how the conflict came to be, but it was Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Padme, and it was droids. Oh, yeah, because they were trying to kill Padme so that she couldn't, like, testify to what was going on in her planet, I guess. I think.
Yeah, like with the vote or something.
Yeah.
They had to vote with the Senate or something.
So, yeah, and it was kind of, you got to see a little bit of shooting. That was all right, but, like, Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon was so freaking awesome.
It was, like, the whole fight scene with, like, the lightsabers, but when Qui-Gon, spoiler, died, it broke my heart. I wasn't even expecting it.
It was so sudden.
Like, I was looking away and you're like, watch this. I turn my head. Qui-Gon gets killed. I just, like, waterworks.
Yeah, and I didn't expect it because I didn't know that there was enough time for you to kind of develop that type of relationship with that character. But he's just like, he's such a father-like figure in it that, you do kind of instantly gain this type of, like emotional attachment to the character. But yeah, that gave the whole first movie weight. If you hadn't done that, then that first movie's just not much of anything. It's like, oh, we met Anakin, and here's the characters.
It'd just be like a base movie, just like introducing for the second and third.
Yeah. So, in doing so, I give this one credit because it had weight, it had consequences. It obviously builds up to where the story's going, but it also feels like a complete story in its own. It's like this is the rise and fall of Darth Maul, and this is the death of Qui-Gon. Like it's a pretty meaningful story.
And it like shows Anakin's like where he was from.
Yeah. Right? Yep. The origin story of Anakin. Ultimately, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. It was pretty good. Obviously, I have things that take away from it, but it is, I think, it's a solid entry for the prequels, I will say.
I do agree. I think I gave it a 4.5.
Yeah, I think so too.
4.5 or 5. I don't know. I just thought it was really good.
Well, yeah, it was what was like, yeah, let's watch Star Wars.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think going to Disney, just like being, sorry, off topic, but being in Galaxy's Edge, I'm like, this is so cool, which made me want to watch it, and then just watching the first movie, it hooked me.
Yeah. And I was glad because it got me into it too. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Watching the first one, I was a little on the fence. I was like, people aren't big on these ones. People kind of aren't super into them, but yeah, watching this, I was like, let's freaking do it, The next one, episode 2, Attack of the Clones. One of the biggest kind of not like criticisms of this is it's really a movie that just kind of sets up for the third one.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me because, like, immediately after the film, you're like, yeah, there wasn't too much of consequence for this one. it was really cool. They introduce
The clones.
the clones, also Boba Fett. That was pretty awesome.
Count Dooku, was that where they introduced him?
That was the one that I was like really freaking pumped on. Which, and I didn't get, obviously as a kid, I didn't get this, and I think I told it to you while we were watching it. I think the whole character name was, they called him Count Dooku because Christopher Lee, I believe the actor's name is, but the actor who plays Count Dooku played Count Dracula in like a good amount of films in like the 80s or 70s. So I like Count Dracula, Count Dooku. I think that's why they named it that. It was cool. You got to see a lot of Jedi in action. That was quite neat. And then also you get to see Dooku fight Yoda. That was sick. The Star Wars movies, at least the first two, they found a way to like, let's end it on a note, like an exciting note. Like they know to kind of ramp up really close to the end. And it kind of leaves you with a memory that even if the whole movie wasn't like, this is all super high, exciting action, you're like, oh man, you felt like you got your money's worth at the end.
Yeah, I think they do that to, like, so everyone's like, let's watch the next movie. So it's kind of like a...
Get them excited and wanting more. Yeah, so, and I think that influenced my rating of it. Because, like, it ended on an exciting note, and they really did ramp it up at the end. And the kind of plotting and intrigue of everything was super neat. To see like where Palpatine is going with everything. You get to see Anakin start to take a darker turn. And
with his mom, right?
Yeah, so he just like completely massacred the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
That was kind of, it was cool, like you need that. So the third movie doesn't just completely feel out of place. You need to have a battle of morality for the character, or it's all just gonna feel really misplaced. And I mean, a lot of people's criticism that I kind of agree with, and I think this is something that even you will agree with, and you're really high on these movies. But Anakin and Padme, when they were like, romancing, it was just like, I get it, but this is so uninteresting for the story.
Yeah, and it felt like it was just like, I don't know. I don't know if I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I think...
Because it was weird for you, because you're like, I mean, what are the ages of these characters?
Yeah, I had to look it up, because I'm like... Because in the first movie, they looked so...
Yeah.
Like, aged, like, different.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, like, it's like how old are they, like age-wise?
Yeah, exactly.
And it turned out they were, like, 3 years apart in the movie.
Yeah. Which, in a way, it does kind of make sense. Because, I mean, girls do early on, like, they like, age faster, and then boys catch up. So that makes sense in a way, but yeah, in the first movie, it seemed like she was, like, 16, and he's, like,
9
maybe,
or 8,
yeah. So it's like, oh my god, what is she, like, 26, and he's, like, 17? But yeah, so...
That was off topic, I'm sorry.
But it is a valid criticism, because people watching it back then, it's not like you could just, like, Google it. You just have to kind of, like... And in my mind, I'm like, look, I'm not going to be grossed out by it. I'm just going to expect the fact that they are, like... They kind of sealed up that one, like, kind of weird plot point. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But yeah, you looking it up, I was like, okay, yeah, that I can see that's them going for that. But it was really uninteresting. they had a real lack of chemistry, I thought, honestly.
Yes.
They didn't seem like really good. But it was really nice to see Obi-Wan get a lot of screen time. All the stuff he was doing, like on that planet that had the droid army, was interesting. Count Dooku was really great on screen. Christopher Lee is a tremendous actor. Palpatine is pretty much always interesting. Padme, again, you know, Yoda. I liked Yoda throughout this whole series, so it was kind of cool to see that. And the ending battle was pretty cool, like in the arena, whenever they were going to execute Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme.
Yeah.
That was neat, but ultimately it was like most cool at the very end, when Obi-Wan and Anakin were fighting Count Dooku. Anakin loses his hand. Obi-Wan, does he get like, he just gets knocked down, or does he get kind of crushed under something maybe?
I don't know if I'm thinking of it. I think he gets crushed under something, or is that in the...
I think it happens in both.
Third? Okay.
I think it, yeah. And then Yoda comes in, and I think that's like the first time you ever see him in lightsaber battle. I don't think in the original you see him saber fight at all. So I think back in the day when this came out, people were like, holy shit, that's awesome. And it is awesome to see him like just flying around, jumping.
Yeah, I was like, because don't you remember? I was like, yeah, like just like can everyone do those like flips?
Yeah.
Because he's just like flying through the air, flipping.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, another like kind of small thing was the CGI in this one and the first one has glimpses of not so good. The first one, and like obviously it's older, so CGI hasn't developed, but I think they knew their limitations. So they weren't putting it front and center as much. In the second one, I almost feel like they got a little bit ahead of themselves as far as how good it is, and used it probably more than they should have. Because there was some times where it was like in the background, or like maybe even some explosions, and I'm like, that does not age nearly as well as they thought it would.
I think they make up for it in the third one, though.
That's exactly where I was going with it. The third one, honestly, there's really no weak spots in the CGI. And I'm sure someone listening will say, like, oh, didn't you see XYZ? On my viewing, nothing was like a glaring weakness for the CGI. Which was like, after this movie, they tightened up what they were doing.
And like, I'm like always like the CGI, like I really like critiquing it, especially in older movies.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm like, that looks horrible. I loved it, especially for the time.
Yeah. Oh, and the third one?
Yes.
Oh my, yeah. Like that is honestly, like, and I know that was kind of the tipping point that George Lucas decided to pull the trigger on this whole trilogy, was because he's like, CGI's come so far that I can finally make this vision of a prequel trilogy. And 99, he uses it in doses, probably just the right amount. The second one, it's not quite there. They are able to do a lot of cool stuff. Some of it well, some of it not so much. This one I also gave a 3.5, and I really wrestled with like, should I give it a 3 instead? just because I felt like the weaknesses with this were much higher, and also it doesn't feel like a complete story. I think if you don't have episode 3, this movie, you couldn't just watch this movie. You'd be like, yeah, I mean, you're missing a complete ending.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
yeah,
good.
I think I gave it a 4, which that's an 8 out of 10, which is like still pretty good for me. I don't know. It's just I couldn't get into it as much as I did the first one though.
I got you.
Yeah. And then the third one, I was like putting off watching, and then just because I was like, I don't want it to disappoint me like the second one.
I got you. On to the third one, and I've already talked it up so much that I think you kind of know my thoughts. But we watched it today. Maybe it's one of those things where, like, in time, I'll, like, start to look at it more critically. But, oh, man. Like, even Hayden Christensen, he's the actor of Anakin. Like, he was better than the second one. Was his acting the best in this? No, absolutely not. Palpatine was great. Dooku, for as much as he was in it, was great. Obi-Wan was the best.
Did you already say Windu?
Windu was really good. Padme was about even. She was never, like, terrible. She was never, like, really bad. But she never, like, I've seen Natalie Portman movies where I thought she, like, killed it.
Yeah, like, I think I introduced you to Black Swan.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
She was amazing.
Yeah, she is, like, that is one of the best performances. Yeah. And she's great in that. In this, it feels like the role is just kind of made to not excel. They really could have done a lot with her. It just didn't. It wasn't meant to be. And she was good in Leon the Professional, which she filmed as a 14-year-old. You know, so it's not like she got better. It just it's the role, I think. But you get right off the bat, starts off high intensity. It's like I saving all of the stuff and keeping it out of the second, just sandwiched it into the third, which made it at least worth it. Like the weight came with a reward for sure, but and then the whole way through it just really felt like there was always something pressing. And it took Anakin's journey to the ultimate destination, which is like I honestly think everyone was familiar with it, and like they almost knew immediately that's what this trilogy was for, but you were left untainted. Oh, and I think the one thing that tipped it
was the last name.
Well, yeah, the last name. But when we were clicking on the movie today, seeing there was a picture of Anakin with, like, he looks evil. He
does, like, the black robe.
Yeah.
Like his face. I'm just like...
And he has the yellow eyes before we even click the movie, and you're like, is that Anakin? And I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah. And, like, that, I think, made you very suspicious. And then once you had that mindset, you started picking up on, like, all the subtleties.
Yeah.
And
it didn't take away from the movie, though, I don't think.
I was just, if it could have been, and I don't know, I think you would have eventually had to figure it out. But if it would have been just an absolute mystery until the very end, and you're like, oh my God. But they call him Darth Vader at a point in the movie.
Yeah, when, like, he's like, I shall, like, he just, like, with the Windu.
My new apprentice. Yes. You shall be Darth Vader.
And do you remember my reaction? I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I was freaking out.
Yeah. So that would have been awesome to, like, experience that.
I think I was just more excited that I was right.
Yeah.
With my guessing.
But it's a super dope moment in the whole lore of it all.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, like that's what this was building towards. It's like the creation of the biggest villain in all of cinema.
Yes, because I didn't know, like, they were building up to that. You said, like, were people suspicious?
I think people knew. I just think they knew when it's like Anakin Skywalker. I think from the first one when they did, and maybe even like that was like the sales pitch of it. I don't know. I was too young, but I think people were like, this is the, this is the creation of Darth Vader.
Let me ask you a question I was saving for. Do you think in the first one, if Qui-Gon like brought his mom, right, with them to wherever, like away from being a slave, do you think that like he wouldn't have killed those sand people? Do you think he wouldn't have had the dark side and he actually would have been the chosen one?
So it's that's a really good question. 'Cause it does, in a way, this whole trilogy shows why the rules are the way they are, and also how when you break one rule, it makes all the other rules like work against you. That it's like they don't want to have kids who are past a certain age, because then you have developed like family bonds that kind of pull you back, and emotional ties that can easily be taken to the places that the dark side represents.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and is that messed up? Yeah. That is. I think that shows a weakness of like the Jedi way, because you have to be so such an empty vessel that you can't have attachments like they say, but putting all this weight into this character who has potential but can be, you know what I mean? It's like you broke a rule but then decided to keep all these other rules. And it's like, I don't know. Could have been, if they would have done everything completely different, maybe, like you said, he wouldn't have turned out that way.
Because, like, I know he was like, they don't trust me in this movie, which led him to, like, Palpatine even more. Because Palpatine was, like, manipulating him into, like, getting what he wanted, and which made them not trust him even more. And I feel like it was, like, a cycle of, like, them not trusting him going closer and closer as Palpatine's, like, trying to, like, talk bad about the Jedi.
Yeah, they were definitely pushing him away for a lot of
and
the
as
movie.
as Palpatine's, like, pulling him, so it was just, I think it was inevitable.
Yeah. Oh, and the cool scene at the beginning where he beheads Count Dooku, that was awesome. General Grievous is brought back for this one. He's another, like, super awesome character. Oh, wait, was he in this one?
Who?
Yeah. General Grievous?
Yeah.
Oh, he was? Okay,
yeah. Robot thing.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. For some reason, when I was a kid, I thought Dooku was put into Grievous's, like, machinery. And I thought Dooku became Grievous.
I don't think so, because Grievous was in the second one with...
Yeah, I was completely wrong on that. I don't know why I thought that. When they, like, killed Grievous, I was like, okay, does Dooku come back as Grievous? But yeah, I don't know why I thought that. But yeah, the whole, like, it's really interesting, those interpersonal connections between Anakin, Palpatine, and the Jedi Order. It may be a little bit frustrating where you're like, damn, you are literally just keep pushing him away at every turn. But to have Obi-Wan as, like, the one person he still trusts, and, like, they had a really good relationship for, like, 90% of the movie, that made it even, like, more interesting.
It just kind of upset me because, like, when he was like, thank you, like, you know, I don't know if it was sincere, because, like, I don't think Anakin was really sincere with that, but he's like, thank you, like, for mentoring me, and he's like, so, like, may the force be with you, old friend, and stuff.
I think it was. I think it was sincere. I do.
I thought it was. I felt so like.
It seemed a little bit menacing, but I think it was just because he was in the shadows wearing black.
And his smile. I don't know if his smile was just an evil smile.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, okay, it might have been sincere then.
I thought it was, and one of the reasons for that is because he was content to let Mace Windu, like, basically arrest Palpatine until he, like, I think he just looked at Padme and he was like, I can't risk losing her. And that's when he finally went to the, like, Palpatine's office or whatever.
Yeah, but then, like, he was fine. He's like, just arrest him. Because and then Windu's like, no, like, he can't get away. And then that's when he cut off his arms.
Yeah.
And I think what you said is, like, Palpatine was trying to warn him that the Jedi was, like, taking over. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's what he was warning him about, and that's, like, he was, like, struggling with.
Well, one of the thing that I noticed was Palpatine says to Anakin when he's about to, or he's threatening to kill Count Dooku, he's too powerful to live. And Mace Windu says the same thing about Palpatine as he's about to kill him. And I think he's like, even this force of good is, like, valuable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's weaknesses to this, and I'm literally putting all of my hopes on them when I can, like, I know that the dark side also has fallacies, but at least I can protect the people I love if I join them.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. I can see that now.
I mean, that was just that was the way I looked at it. Because obviously he grew up, you know, as a Jedi, you know that the dark side can be really bad. But seeing Mace Windu at that time, instead of arresting him, but I think he probably did need to kill Palpatine at that time. So it was like, he was kind of just screwed. But also to see how Palpatine becomes that, like, kind of wrinkly, old, really sinister looking guy, that was super sick.
Well, I thought, you saw me. This is another movie I bawled. Like, it was so sad. When, like, it was, like, when he's, like, Palpatine's, like, you can say it. What did Palpatine say?
Unlimited power.
No, you know what I'm talking about? Order.
No. Oh, execute Order 66.
Yeah, and then, like, everyone just, like, went rogue.
Yeah.
And just started, like...
And then Anakin killed the younglings.
Broke my heart.
Yeah, and you were devastated by that.
F Anakin. I hate him so much.
Yeah, that's a good way to make someone a really villainous character.
Just kill a bunch of kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to...
Even the younglings.
Yeah. But then, like, I thought Obi-Wan died, and I just...
Yep, because he gets shot by the clones. And, yeah, it was a smart kind of piece.
It was emotional. That, like, whole scene was so emotional.
Yeah.
Where they're killing the Jedi.
Uh-huh.
Can't even. I'm gonna cry just talking about it.
Yeah. And then you get to see a lot of Jedi characters that they never dived into. You just kind of get to see their last moments.
Yeah. Like, I asked you, like, is that a Jedi? And then I started, like, realizing that they were targeting them.
That would have been enough. I mean, like, it wouldn't have gone many places, but in the second one, I mean, maybe there could have been a subplot with another Jedi. I don't know.
Either.
Like, just to get something that kind of feels like there's a beginning and an end of an actual story in the second one. This, it felt like, you know, there was just so much going on. Yeah. Not in a bad way. It was awesome. Yeah. There was, like, always something interesting going on. And I'm trying to make sure I'm not forgetting any other, like, really major things, but...
Well, this isn't major, but I remember telling you, I was like, it makes so much sense with, like, the movie I watched, where they're, like, with Rey, like, not having a lot of Jedi.
Yeah.
Because I thought there was so many, like, Jedis, like...
Yeah, at the beginning of this trilogy, there's a
like,
ton.
It's like, this doesn't make any sense. Because it was, like, there was Luke, and then I don't know who else. I haven't watched it in forever, but, like, the one with Rey.
Yeah.
But it was just... This movie just made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
With, like, watching that and then...
It was so sick to see Palpatine's, like, absolute manipulation to become the Emperor of the Republic. Or not Republic anymore, just the Emperor. Yeah. That was awesome. And then we get the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin. That was sick. As sick as the Darth Vader battle, I will say. It was longer. That was cool. And the outcome was just as sick as when you see not only Qui-Gon just get instantly stabbed. And you're like, oh my god, is that... Like, he's like down for the count. Is he dead? And then to see Darth Maul just get freaking halved and fall down that pit. That was iconic, but this was sick. You get to see, like, so much dueling. They are going through this planet. That's awesome. This volcano planet, that was the perfect setting for it. And then, like, don't try it, Anakin, I have the high ground. Such an iconic moment. And to see him still try it, like, which...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I think, like, he was so full of himself. He's like, I can do it. Because within the whole movie, he's just like, I should be a master. Like, he was so full of himself. He's like, I can do anything, really. Yeah. And that's why he tried it, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the arrogance that he had throughout. Like, it makes sense that he would try it because everything has gone his way so far. And then for it just suddenly, it didn't go his way. And
off with the legs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, yeah, I can see why he would be the most villainous character in the universe. And he was really villainous before, killing children, younglings. But now it's like, oh, damn. And then for him to fall, like, deeper towards the lava river and to just get burnt to a crisp. Oh my, like, that is like, that's great cinema.
We also can't skip over the fact that he used the Force with
Padme. Yeah. And I think the fact that this is like a family-friendly film, you can't do this as much. It would have made so much sense if he would have critically injured her from that. And then it's like, okay, well, we have to save these babies or they're going to die. As opposed to, well, she just lost the will to live. Yeah. That would have been so much better. I think that would have really came close to the line, though, as to what you're allowed to show for like a PG film. But he got burnt to a crisp, so I don't even know. And people got their heads cut off. I think you could have got away with it. Like, if the Force choke would have, like, really injured her to where she literally was, like, on the verge of death, and they had to, like, all right, well, the kids aren't going to make it unless we get them out now. That would have been so much less cheesy than there's nothing wrong with her health-wise. She's just lost the will to live. Yeah. But that's just one little criticism. Anything from on your end that really stuck out to you? I mean, and showing the suit. Yes. That was so sick. Yeah. It was like, this is Darth Vader is now here.
Yeah, I was like, it made so it's like a part of him. Mm-hmm.
This was the origin movie of Darth Vader, and it's a sick movie.
Yeah. Maybe. And then they introduce Princess Leia and Luke as as the babies, and then like
the wayward babies,
showing how they went with different families.
Yeah, and why they end up a lot differently, just raised by different people. And then I can't remember who that actor is. He's in Warrior, the MMA movie with Tom Hardy.
That's why because we were trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and I think he's in other stuff, but that's the big one that he's like the lead of.
Yeah.
Or one of the leads. Anywho, I give this a 4 out of 5, and my like snap reaction was I almost wanted to give it 4.5.
Wow.
I was just like, I was fully into this whole movie, but I was like, I think I rated the other ones a little high. I'm gonna stay down to earth. I think 4 is good. The other one is like a low 3.5. I honestly think 3 is probably about right, but I'll hold off until maybe if I ever watch it again, and then tell from there. But yeah, like this was a dope ending to any trilogy, and then it's like, and that's the great thing about this, because they're prequels. It's like you know, hey, this goes somewhere, and you can kind of watch that, and I'm hella excited to watch the original trilogy.
Me too.
But I'm gonna miss Obi-Wan. I think that's the character I'm gonna miss the most. Young Obi-Wan. He's the standout of the trilogy for me.
Really?
I do think so. You know, if Qui-Gon got to be in all 3, it could have easily been him, but Obi-Wan got to fit that space, and he's like a father figure.
Yeah. I think I gave this a 12 out of 10.
Yeah, which it broke the scale for you.
And I feel like I'm betraying Harry Potter, but this might have been my favorite movie I've ever seen.
Well, it's always good to hear that. I mean,
yeah. I can't wait to watch the other 6.
Yeah, the Tridge and the Noobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that. Everyone says the original trilogy's awesome, and I can't wait to watch it.
Me too.
That's all from us. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your patronage. Leave a comment, subscribe, and like the video. Y'all have been great, and we will catch you on the flippity flute. Bye, y'all.